Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and this is my granny era. Tonight I am really excited to share with you guys all of the plans that I have for my January 2025 reading. I read so many books in December that I am not quite as freaked out by this January plan as I probably normally would be. But it is amazing how much you can read when you get off of social media. So at the beginning of December, actually right after Thanksgiving, I just decided I was getting off of Facebook. I was not going to spend time just doom scrolling, and I was going to cut out a lot of the videos that I would watch on YouTube that were not related to bookish things. None of my booktube friends, but just other stuff, news, political stuff, just stuff that wasn't making the best use of my time and I wasn't as interested in as I was in my books. And I would just kind of see how many books I could get read in a month, because I started out December 17 books short of my Goodreads goal. And so I never read 17 books in a month. I might read 6, maybe 7 on a good month. I think I am up to like 15 read this month, so I just have a couple more to go and I will have that Goodreads goal completed. But it is all because I got off of social media. So I'm giving myself that same level of hope for the month of January, which is a good thing because this list is big. So when I was looking at all the different challenges that are happening and my own read-alongs and reading challenges that I have planned for January and for the year, I realized I'm in a lot of stuff, but I want to do all the stuff. So I'm going to make a good attempt, at least for January, because I know that it's a super, laid back month for me this year. All right, so let's get right into it. So the first little section of books here that I want to share with you guys is what I am reading for Nathanuary. Now, Nathanuary is an event that I am hosting. This is my second year hosting Nathanuary, and it only takes place in the month of January, and it is devoted to reading the works of Nathaniel Hawthorne. You may be familiar with The Scarlet Letter. That is probably his most famous novel, and that is going to be the group read actually for this year, The Scarlet Letter. And then I'm also going to be reading and talking about some of his short stories. So I will be putting out a video here very shortly with just a little bit of biographical information, as well as some talk about some of his short stories. And then later in the month, I will have a video on The Scarlet Letter after several in the group, have been able to read the majority of it at least. And then maybe at the end of the month, I might put out something else with a couple more kind of analytical, sort of things on more of his short stories. We'll see how that goes. But there is a Discord group if you guys are interested in joining Nathanuary, or even just sort of lurking in the background to follow along with what we are doing. Go ahead and go to the link in my description box to join my Discord, and then you can see the discussion for Nathanuary, as well as the discussion for my classic children's novel read along that is taking place for the full year. Let's go into that one next. So I have a reading list. Each month we will have a children's classic novel to read together for the read along. And for the month of January, we're going to do The Little White Horse by Elizabeth Googe. This is one of our family's favorite stories, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it because it has been several years since I've read this. So that's going on the list. Then I have decided to join Anne at In Search of Wonder with a couple of her reading events. The first one is Epistolary January, something that I have not yet participated in. I don't know if this is the first year for that or not, but it's the first time I've heard about it. So I'm going to do that this year. And I thought that I only had a couple of books, but as I started going through my shelves, I realized I actually have several books that will work for Epistolary January. So I've made a little pile of possibilities. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but here's my little pile. So the first one, I have been talking about reading Helen Keller's The Story of My Life. So half of this book is a biography and half of it is letters. And so I'm going to go through that. I keep saying I'm going to. This is the month I'm going to read Helen Keller. All right, so the next one up is Delicious by Ruth, is it Reichel? Now, she has written several food like memoirs, and I'm not exactly sure if she's like a food critic, if she writes for a magazine. I'm not exactly sure what she does, but I have read like years ago, like 15 years ago, I read one of her food related memoirs. And this book is a novel that she wrote, and it kind of has a little bit of a time, like dual timeline element to it. This woman has taken a job at a food magazine, and she finds some letters in the magazine, library at the headquarters or whatever, and they are written during World War II to a legendary chef. So that is the premise of the story, and a good epistolary novel. Part of it is epistolary, part of it is, not. So that'll be a good one. All right, and then next up, I pulled out my copy of Jane Austen's letters. I have had this for a while, but I've never read all of her letters, and I don't even know if this compilation has all of her letters in it, but it has quite a few. I've had this forever. I can't really even remember where I got this. I think a friend sent it to me. So I'm gonna enjoy going through that. And this actually is going to be applicable to another one of Anne's reading events going on, which I will talk about in a few minutes. Next up for Epistolary January, I found this copy of Yours Ever, People and Their Letters by Thomas Mallon. I've had this for a while too, and completely forgot that I had it until I was sort of culling and unhauling some books today and found this. And so these are just different letters from people throughout history. I have a feeling I will probably jump around in this book. I don't think I will read every single one of them, especially if they're from people that I don't know, but I will look through it at the very least. All right, staying on the subject of letters, epistolary books, but also going into the next reading event that Anne is hosting at In Search of Wonder. This is going to be a year-long event celebrating Jane Austen because next December is her 250th birthday. And so all throughout the year, Anne and her co-host are challenging us to read certain books each month. She's got a couple to choose from and do other Jane things. So that is where this kind of comes in there. But there are two books on the schedule for this month that we can choose from. They are Pamela by Samuel Richardson, which was a book that Jane would have read and been inspired by. It is an epistolary book, and some of her first books started out as epistolaries as well. And then the other one is The Lost Memoirs of Jane Austen by Siri James. This is a fictional story. There aren't any lost memoirs of Jane Austen that we know about at this time, but this is a fictional story pretending that there are. And I think I'm gonna have to sort of look through again. I'm sort of thumbing through. I can't remember. I've read this one a couple of times and I can't remember if there's actually letters in here or if they're just writings that, have supposedly been found, fictionally been found. I don't see just right offhand here actual letter form letters here in the book, but it definitely fits with the Celebrating Jane Austen, and the copy of Pamela does fit in with Epistolary January and the celebration of Jane Austen. Now, I am also going to be using this book for a third event that I'm doing with Anne at In Search of Wonder. I don't know, I like Anne, but I think Anne and I read a lot of the same books, and so I'm really enjoying hanging out on her channel and in her Discord as well. So the third event that I am doing with Anne and others that enjoy her channel is called Reading the Classics Challenge. Now, she has put together a pretty, elaborate reading challenge here for the next year and spent a lot of time on this. You can tell she's crafted everything to really flow together nicely. I'm really excited about it. And so it's reading the classics. Okay, so she is defining everything that's 50 years and older as a classic. That works for me, even though I'm 45. That's kind of approaching. I usually go like pre-1970, but so in Anne's event, she's got all these different like sheets to help you. I printed everything off. So there is a prompt for each month. The prompt for January is read a book from your physical TBR. Okay, so a classic from your physical TBR. And I've already showed you several, right, that are going to just fit that prompt right there. And then she has a scavenger hunt and then a challenge. The challenge for January is not to buy anything. It's a book buying ban. I can do that. We've already talked about that. This is my month for buying books. In fact, I'm hoping to get off to a little thrift shop tomorrow after I do some errands. It's very close to me, and maybe pick up a couple of books. So book buying ban is definitely out for me, but the scavenger hunt, I can do that. So the three things we're supposed to look for in our books, you can either find all of these in one book or break them up over multiple books. So there needs to be a book featured, a male protagonist featured, and winter featured. Okay, the only one I'm not totally positively sure about is winter, but let's look at these other ones. So story of my life, Helen Keller. We know that you know, the topic of braille writing comes up in here, so I'm gonna assume there's a book in here, but we'll find out. Little White Horse does have a male, I don't know, he's kind of more of an antagonist, but I think actually there might be a protagonist as well in here, but we'll see about that. And possibly winter. Scarlet Letter definitely has a male protagonist in it and might also take place during winter. I mean, it takes place over several you know, seasons, and so we'll just see how prominently winter is featured there. Then several in Nathaniel Hawthorne's tales will fit all of those prompts. Samuel Richardson's Pamela will feature a male protagonist at least. And then we've got a couple here on this next pile of books I'm going to show you that will likely fit into this challenge as well. So I think I'm going to be okay with the scavenger hunt. Surely winter will show up somewhere in one of these. All right, this next pile of books are my TBR game picks. Now, my TBR game. When you play my TBR game, basically I pick numbers out of a cup, and each of the books on my 2 TBR shelves back here are labeled with a number in my book journal. And so I pick out the number from the cup, I find the book in the book journal, I get the book off the shelf, I look and see how many pages are in it, and I have to keep picking books up until the goal is to get right around 1,000 pages. So if I hit 950, I can stop. But if I haven't hit 950, I gotta keep going. So when I was picking my books tonight, I picked 4 books and hit 936. I was like, oh, I already have so many books that I want to read this month. But I did make a rule for myself. So I picked a 5th book. So I was like, okay, the ones I've been picking are pretty short. Like, maybe I'll get lucky here. I picked my 5th book and it was 446 pages. So for my TBR game, I have myself reading 1,382 pages. So the deal with that TBR game is basically once they come off of these shelves, they can't go back on. So if it's a book that I just don't end up getting to in the month, but I know I want to keep it, I know that it's something I want to keep in my library, then I can go ahead and just put it in the library, but it just can't go back on that shelf. I'll just put it in the library, and someday down the road, I'll pull it back out again. If I'm not sure about it, then I have that month to read it. But if I haven't read it by the end of the month, and I'm not positive I want to keep it in my permanent library, then I do have to unhaul it. So I'm looking at this pile of 5 books, and I might end up unhauling some of them. But we'll see. Okay, so let's go through what they are. So this is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I have read this before. It's one of those you had to read in school and nobody actually did, but we just said that we did, and then we just silently acted like we read it while the teacher explained enough for us to be able to come up with something that made it sound like we read it. The days before the internet, right? So, but I did end up reading this I don't know how long ago, a long time ago, but not so long that I don't remember the story. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it, but if I'm not getting into it, I'll probably just go ahead and put it on the permanent collection shelf somewhere. I think it's probably one of those books I'd want to keep around, but like I said, I'll have to read a little bit and see. I know that the book is about a mentally disabled person and maybe a nurse or doctor that it says that it is a daring novel of a startling human experiment. So I can't remember what exactly happens in this book, but it has to do with treating this mentally disabled patient. Okay, next one up is Orunoko by Afra Ben, and this is a pretty short book. It is a classic, so I'm actually, Flowers for Algernon is as well. So both of these qualify here for this Reading the Classics challenge that I'm doing. This is a story that takes place in Africa, and it's a really old story. It was first published like in the late 1600s, I think. And so I'm wanting to read that. Next up is Exploring Villages by Jocelyn Finberg. I bought this the first time I went to England back in 2013 and read a little bit of it on the plane, and it's literally just like talking about different English villages and architecture and things. So it just shows different, you know, buildings and stuff, and it's just talking about different villages. Oh, here inside there's a ticket for Bath Spa to London. So much fun. Okay, anyway, so I'll read through that. Next up is English Music by Peter Ackroyd. I love Peter Ackroyd. This is a novel of his. I've only ever read his nonfiction, but I really enjoy him, so we'll see what we think about his novel, English Music. Looks like it is about a boy with special powers who is on stage and then has to leave and go live somewhere else, and what happens then, I guess. And then finally I picked, this is the 446 page book. This is Israel, My Beloved by Kay Arthur. And this is the one I think I'm probably going to end up unhauling. Not because I'm not interested in it, it's just that this is 440 pages, but it spans like the entire history of Israel. And I feel like that's gonna be really choppy and just sort of like diving in and out of historical periods in a fictional story. It's like I don't do good with sagas unless they're Edward Rutherford. I love his sagas, but I don't know, I'm just not feeling this one, so we'll see. I do have to say that this girl on the cover here, I haven't told you guys, so our second son, our third child in line, but our second son is getting married in April. And then this girl here in the middle looks like exactly like his fiance. Maybe I should put a picture of her up here, but I just think that's cool. Beautiful, sweet, beautiful. Oh, I can't wait. Okay, so lastly, I got two more. Can you guys believe this? I don't even know. I won't even have time to make videos. I'm going to be reading so much. All right, I picked two books to do for Historathon. So a couple of days ago, I put out my Historathon Pile of Possibilities video. And so I picked two that I'm going to try to do in January because I really would like to stay on top of that, but I really went easy on myself. So one of the books I talked about was this History of the British Isles by Jeremy Black. And I talked about how I'm just going to read a little bit each quarter, following along history as it, you know, fits in with the era that we're reading for Historathon. The first 11 pages of this is all this is that talks about our time period up to 500 AD for this quarter. So I've marked it with this little Vermeer page tab. And my goal is to read at least those first 11 pages in the month of January. And then also to read my Stonehenge visitor's guide that is super thin. I want to read through that in January. All right, that's all the stuff that I am like committing to, that I'm gonna do the best I can. I really want to do those things. But there are a few other books over here that I'm thinking about pushing in if I can. So I have 3 wintry books here that I really need to read by the end of February if I'm going to read them in winter, because our winters do not last very long here in Northwest Arkansas. Now this first one is Hilary McKay's Fairy Tales, and I don't know if these tales are set in winter, but the cover is definitely, you know, looking like these are not something you're going to want to read in the middle of July. So I want to try to read these this month and next. And then I have 2 other winter books. Kate Moss, The Winter Ghosts. This one was recommended by Rosamunde from Books on My Bookshelf. I will put her channel down below. And I've been wanting to get this for a while. However she described it, just sounded like something I wanted to read. So I ended up getting that from a friend for my birthday. And then this one also I got from a friend for my birthday, The Winter Sisters. I don't know where I heard about this one. Again, I gotta read it in winter. So that might be it. My 2 books of poetry that I have been trying to get through, Emily Bronte's collection, as well as Anne Bradstreet. I probably should try to read a little bit from those as well. But guys, I'm excited and a little freaking out. I think one thing I am going to start doing is a weekly wrap up, because I usually, well, at first I was only doing a monthly wrap up. Then I started doing a mid-month wrap up and then a end of the month wrap up. But like December, that video is going to be like an hour long. I have so many books to talk about, and I didn't end up doing a mid-month wrap up. So I think I'm going to try weekly wrap ups, at least during these slower months when I have more time to read, so that my videos aren't super long, but I can still kind of check in and tell you guys what I've been doing. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. Check out my Discord. I started up a new Discord, and there's fun stuff on there, you know, different topic ideas we can talk about and just get to know each other. I'm excited about that. So please go over and join that Discord. The link is in the description box. Hope you guys are having a great day. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.